perspective mainly. I play thousands of indie games online on my YouTube channel, and I write for various websites, primarily freelance. And more recently, and to do with this panel, I've started working with Armored Games on indie publishing, primarily browser-based games online. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
Hello, I'm Simon Byron. I'm the publishing director of Curve Digital. Probably best known for titles like Stealth Bastard, Bomber Crew, Human Fall Flat, which is currently top 5 best-selling games on Steam globally. Despite the fact it came out in July 2016. So yeah, if anybody knows why that is, so we can get to the bottom of it.
Hi, I'm James. I'm the creator of a game called Plague, which has got a million players worldwide now. I'm here, I guess, on both sides of the divide. I've worked with publishers, I've spoken with publishers and not worked with them, and I'm also beginning to support some more indie games as well. So I've seen how to think about all the aspects of it.
I'm Agostino Ago, and I run the ID at Xbox program in Europe for Xbox.
I'm Andrea Kiku. I'm a high priestess at Rock Fury, which actually means that I'm heading the sales and business development for them. And we are indie publisher.
My name is Peter Willington. I'm sat behind this pillar. And I am producer and marketing manager at More Digital. We make a lot of IP-based games for digital strategy.
Wonderful. So to start off, I feel like we should talk about why you should have a publisher and what the need for having a publisher would be. James, you sort of came from self-publishing, so why did you feel you needed a publisher?
Well, I think actually it's important for you to work out why you think you want a publisher. Sometimes there's a huge amount of value to be given from them, and other times it's less so. So I think it's, it can be money, it can be marketing, it can be needing technical assistance, it can be wanting access to players and housing, all those different things. I think for me, the reason why we worked with a publisher on Android was technical capacity. At the time I needed people to do the technical porting work for me, and I didn't have that. When we looked at bringing Plague into Steam, we talked to a number of publishers about it. It's quite scary, we didn't know how to go about doing it, and in the end we didn't go with a publisher, we did it ourselves, and that was absolutely the right thing, because actually we were able to sort of handle that internally. So I think it's important to know what your aim is, and then work out accordingly every publisher better.
Yeah, I think for the reasons just stated, but people often focus on the skills that a publisher brings during the all-important launch window, but it's become a lot more, much more beyond that, that your game doesn't just sell during the launch period as it used to do back in the old box retail days. Ship them off to John Gateys or Smith, and then collect them all back about a month later. Natalie members. But now it's about making sure that you're on major digital stores, but there are so many other ways to sell your game beyond the sort of 4 or 5 that we all think of particularly. Lots of different outlets, lots of different opportunities for physical, for digital bundles, that sort of thing. So I always say to people that are interested in talking to us that it's really important that you like who you're working with, because if it goes well, you should be working together for years and years and years.
I think one thing on that is that often indie publishers and games they make a game, they release it, and I play on to the next big thing, and that's so fucking annoying. It's like one of the biggest things that people do, which is stupid with a game. It's so hard to get an audience these days. If you've got a game that's doing well, you've got to keep on working with it. I think the right publishers can help and encourage you doing that. When I'm talking to developers, that's one of the things I find myself saying most often is, like, what's your plan for after launch? How's your content going to work? Keep going, keep it. The only reason Plague is done as well as it has is because we continue to update it. And I think so a publisher should be forcing you and kicking you to make you keep on working on your game, even when you want to work on your next cool idea before you get a chance.
Actually, you said why you want the publisher. ID obviously we work with thousands of developers, and quite often developers come to us and say, "Oh, I can get the game on the platform my own." Which is true. Any developers can get the title on our platform, also on platform, any other platform on their own. Not all the developers have the skill sets in turn. So when we do our calls, we always point out all the different challenges and tasks you have to undertake. And some developers are happy to do them all. They are happy to outsource them and manage their relationship with family or different PR, and there are plenty of consultants for that. But the first step is, what do I need to do to make this type successful? And then you need to decide whether you can do it on your own or you can. And then you find, as a platform, we always are asked, what do you prefer? Honestly, we prefer you guys to come with a great title. If it's you or your publisher, we don't mind. So platform don't mind what path you take. We treat you the same as other partners, but ask yourself all those questions. Quite often people don't realize that there are all those challenges and they focus on development. Development is 35% of your job, it's your self-publishing.
So in our case, we adapt what we offer depending on the teams we work with. So for some, we help them even with priorities when it comes to development, features, and like don't focus too much on this. Or we put them in touch with artists, with musicians, like everything they need. Then of course we go to the financial part. Sometimes we help on the development side, but also we facilitate for them taking them to events, not many of them can afford going to DC or coming here if they are not based in UK. And we help them to have access to the industry, to connect with other people. I think that's really important for them. And also something that we are trying is to be there for them during release and after release, because it's so frustrating, it's so stressful to put a game out there, to know how to handle, how to talk to journalists, to the consumers that come to you and ask you all kinds of questions, or customer support. It's something that not many things can do.
Yeah, I'd say half the titles we do, we go to the publisher, half the titles we do, tend not to. Obviously, it's money marketing. And all the usual stuff you would expect from you would want from a publisher relationship. I think the two things for us also would be expertise. So if you're talking to a publisher and they're not telling you things that you don't already know, probably working with a publisher, they should know their market and their audience really well. And as a studio, we like to work on products that are aimed at niches and profitable niches, but niches nonetheless. And again, if you're making, let's say, for example, you're making a brand strategy game, you would probably want to talk to people about Crusader Kings, right? Because they've got access to that audience, they've got data emails, they've got platforms and so forth. So again, access to even more users is really useful for publishers.
Obviously, there's a large variety of publishers and different types of publishers that you can go to. There's some publishers that only help with like getting your game on Steam and that's it. So having that big variety does require some research and looking into it. But what would someone would expect from a publisher to just accomplish everything they needed, or what expectations are there when it comes to finding a publisher?
Well, I mean, I guess again, it's like, what can you not do as a studio? So if you're giving away a percentage of your cut from what it is that you're making, you expect something in return. Like if all they're offering is we'll send a mail blast to our PR list and we'll put you on Steam, I mean, you should probably come to Jump because that is that is 5-6 years ago, when there was a barrier to entry for Steam. So I would say it's you want a publisher to be able to fill in the areas which you as a studio potentially are weak. So if you don't have a dedicated marketing team, then and a publisher can offer that, then that's a really cool thing to offer. And it might not necessarily mean that you need the development budget. You might just need somebody to turn up to 11 from your already made number.
So what we expect from an ID partner, and I hate the term indie. Stop using it. You're an independent developer. You're self-publishing. You're a digital publisher, not an indie publisher. There's no such a thing as an indie publisher. As an indie Xbox, we expect our partners, they're self-publishing, they are digital publishers, to come to us with their marketing plan, their PR plan, their asset schedule, when the asset is coming, with their sales strategy, to We want to launch, we want to pre-order, we want to do a discount on the pre-order, 2 months after we're thinking of doing this and that. Again, you need to come to us with that, and then we amplify your marketing, your PR, we work together using our channels. That's what a publisher should give you, and or what you should be doing as a publisher. We see people coming to us saying, okay, what do we do? It's like, I don't know, to tell us. We are not writing the marketing plan, or your PR plan, or your messaging. So that's, if you can't do that, then a publisher will be great. If you can do your PR, your community, but you can't do the marketing, then it's fine, and just outsource that bit. But bear in mind that when you go to platform, especially console platform, they are more engaged in terms of approach than Steam, where it's a bit more hands-off. That's what we expect from you. We expect you to come with a schedule, with everything you're going to do, what you're going to say, when you're going to say, when the embargo is, and what channel is going to hit, and how we can help. So that's one of the can we do it or not.
I think basically don't be afraid to chop and choose and find exactly which bits of it you want to give to a publisher and which bits don't. And you can adjust the finances accordingly. Like if you're going to get, you can say we're only getting to do a tiny fraction of the publishing stuff, therefore let's cut the percentage out of this and that can really focus on it. You don't, sometimes I think it's very tempting, it's got to be the whole thing or nothing, but actually, I'm assuming you guys have a problem with people fine-tuning and doing bespoke stuff.
No, I think long gone are the days where you have standard deal terms. I don't think that any of ours have been similar across the board. But the more you ask for, the more you want from a publisher, the more that they will want to take. So, yeah, every game is individual, every timeline is individual. But yeah, being flexible, I think is number one priority. What you should look for in terms of your publishing partner.
And get to talk with many different publishing partners as you can. Like you want to have at least sort of like 5 good solid offers in front of you, so you can look at them all, play each other off against them, and test it. Oh, I didn't think of that bit. Let's add that bit in as well.
Actually, on this, I always mention this, please go to reps. At the end of the panel, you can message Phil Spencer and say, yeah, it was rubbish. So the power of social media means that companies can't be terrible about people without people knowing. So we always say, I hear Xbox will represent, we are selling you guys our platform, right? We show the good things. We are very open showing the bad things, quite open. But go and talk to our partners, right? Whether we are genuine or not, and do the same with publishers. Go on social media, talk to the people that already work with Curve and ask them, how was Curve, what was good, what was bad, and do your research. People will be very happy, especially if they're not happy, and why they're not happy. So yeah, use that. Because when you're signing a deal every 2 years, it's hard. The market has changed, the terms have changed. It's hard to tell whether a publisher will be good or bad, efficient or not efficient. Just do the research.
I think it's so important to be vocal when a partnership isn't working properly. Like, just tell the partner that it's not working. They're not going to wake up in the morning thinking, today I want to do a shit job. So if something's not going right, let them know about it. We have multiple instances where partners we work with, there are challenges, there are issues, there are delays. And normally a firm like the note of email to their CEO telling them what's happening, we'll get it all fixed, all transformed, and then it's good going forwards for years to come. Like it's worth investing in the time in making sure that they're doing what you want them to do. Nobody's perfect, so don't feel that if they're doing some marketing plan that you don't agree with, that you've got to just sit there and accept it. Like, no, you know your product best. Stand up, tell them why you disagree with it, have a conversation about it.
And no pointing fingers, a couple of us have been in the industry for a few years. At the time when the power balance between developers and publishers was very different than today, unless you were DMA back then or one of the top studios, you had no power as a developer. Today, independent developers, especially if you have a title that will announce because of all the contact with your gamer, you have a lot of powers in your hands. So the balance is a lot better, it's a lot healthier. So don't underestimate that. If you have a jewel, you have Sony and us, Nintendo calling you, yeah, you have a good negotiating position with end publishers. So be aware of that. The relationships are a lot better than they used to be. So I'm not going to hand it to another person.
No, I completely agree. I hear these horror stories of what it was like in the old days, and you'd have people that create these games that would never see penny, but they talk about Hollywood accounting for films. I think something similar used to go on for box goods, and yeah, these days you've got instant dashboards. You can see what you sold in most cases. You can see what you sold yesterday. In other cases, you have to email a man. But that sort of thing needs to change. But the access to data is so prevalent these days that you can learn and you can react. And I think so. There were a couple of brilliant sessions before this where Phil, Matt, and Alex were all talking about how you grow your audience and how you can plan for success. But these days, you should have a pretty good idea about whether your game's going to be successful before you publish. You've got so much access to analytics and dashboards that if you know that people are on your Steam page now, then you know that there is an interest rate. So it's all about driving people to a specific destination. There are loads of tools for doing that. The old days, you used to, I don't know, you'd book your adverts in the magazines, remember those, and cross your fingers and then write them down years later. There's no formula to success, but the access to information, as Ago said, you should ask your potential publishing partners to provide contacts of people that you should speak to. And I'm all for that. And people shout about things when they go well, but listen to the noises that they're making when it doesn't go well. And a publisher should really demonstrate its worth, not just when it's successful, but what they're going to do if you've had a slightly slower start. How are they going to ensure that what you've all got invested reaches fruition?
I can say that it's not guaranteed that you will publish about your game is going to sell like crazy. So maybe in some cases, like most of the cases, the chances are a bit higher, but you might just be very unlucky, or maybe something happening in the market there is like disrupting or something, and it just not goes well. So there are a lot of factors. So having a publisher doesn't guarantee success. And I think like one of the reasons why you should go to a publisher is like if they already have the community for your game, like you'll try to get working with that publisher. Because now one of the problems is is awareness and taking those users that play similar kind of games and redirecting them towards your game. And that's really, really difficult because the number of, the time is limited. The journalists, they have, just 24 hours per day. They cannot play all the games out there. The users, they have only a limited budget. There are so many games there, and the offer is so huge. And I think that's one of the things that publisher could help if they have community, if your game is good for them.
To rebalance, please remember that you don't necessarily. So all those things, you could do them on your own. Give a talk in Rome, and a couple of months ago I was told it was too negative, so I just rebalance. You can still do all this on your own, but just be aware of everything Andrea was mentioning, you will have to do it. So when you take this journey, be ready for that, and then you make a judgment.
So just so everyone knows, this panel is going to run a little bit, about 20 minutes, so it's going to be a bit longer, going from that, just for your schedules. Like that was something we need to explain. But sort of moving on slightly, contracts are a big part of obviously signing on with the publisher. They're scary, they're intimidating. What are some things that you should look out for when it comes to signing away parts of your game, your livelihood?
Get a lawyer. Honestly, that's the biggest bit of advice I can give. Unless you know contract law, get a lawyer.
So I've been reading and going through many contracts, and I think something that's important is what are you selling for? So are you selling only this game, or are you selling rights to publish on other platforms, to sequels, to any maybe rights to having a book made on that IP, so it's kind of thing. Pay attention to that if you are selling anything else than the existing product. And giving rights to something else is not necessarily a bad thing, because if a certain publisher just building a great IP for you, that then it's gonna make even the help for the sequel becoming successful or anything else, then it's worth it. But make sure that they are paid, or the percentage is right. And then also look into if the publisher is going to engage in helping with other markets, and if they are going to engage in post-launch. So it's not only you willing to do something or them forcing you to want to maintain the game post-release, but also the publisher, they need to engage. Like, yes, we are going to fund it a little bit more, even if the beginning might be tricky, or we have like a plan together.
There's one of the things I think is really useful to look through on contracts as well, when we get that lawyer involved, is look at when a contract starts talking about marketing budgets, and make sure that there's a phrase in there that essentially means there is an upper limit, or that you have to agree to how much that a percentage that you're willing for that publisher to spend on marketing budget. It hasn't happened to us, but like I've heard horror stories before of people, of certain publishers basically thinking, okay, well we need to spend more on marketing budget, therefore it will take you longer to recoup the money once it's gone into profit. Unless there is a thing, essentially a stipulation that says, it cuts off at this point and then we have to have a discussion, you can sometimes get stung by.
And in general, ambiguity is bad in a contract. If there is something you don't understand because it's not plain English, there's no reason why contract should be plain English that everybody can understand. Any of you will sign an idea agreement. It's not a publishing agreement. It's very short and very clear. Also, we're going to do X amount of marketing in value. Just try to get a bullet point list of things that will happen or where the money should go. Contracts can be a method, so you want flexibility in the agreements, but there should be clarity. Something that you look at it and say, yes, they've done that, yes, they've done that. No, they've not done that, but we agree to change. So the less ambiguity you have, the better it is. You can't always clear cut. Sometimes there's ambiguity or undefined point, but you try to reduce that as much as possible. Because the moment you have ambiguity and you need to fight over it, it costs a lot of money, a lot of pain, and you get nowhere. So yeah, try to avoid as much as you can.
I think for me it's two things. It's one, it should be reciprocal. So if the publisher's got something in there saying, oh, when we get to do this, this, and this for you, you should also have it the same way. Like most things in a contract should apply to either party in the contract. So if it's for access to information or if it's certain obligations, try and have it as much as possible so that it's agnostic to whether it's the publisher or it's you doing it, it's either person who can do it. And I think the other thing is, personally, I think you should try and avoid commitments to things for too long or for other platforms and stuff. Because in a way, if the project's going well, you're going to want to work with each other. You don't want to be working with somebody because you're forced to in the contract. I think that's often something I use when I'm talking contracts with anybody. Like, why are you saying you really want Cindy? Like, if we hate each other to this point, you're not going to want to work with me and vice versa. So let's not put in the binding thing saying we have to work together in 10 years' time. Instead, let's say something that says we will consider it in good faith working together after this point, which is meaningless from a contract point of view, but it still shows that you're thinking about working together. But just don't, nobody's ever going to, the publisher's not going to want to force you to do something if you're hating them and being dragged along, kicking and screaming.
Yeah, and Councillor Peter's point, also make sure there's a specification on the minimum that they'll do, so that you will know exactly what you're getting involved in. And talking of money, something that people often overlook, make sure you know when the publisher is reporting to you. Most of the digital stores report monthly, some publishers won't report monthly. And then it's like, okay, so they get their statement, when will they report to you, and then when will they pay you? Because you're getting, you don't just start getting money as soon as you hit publish. I mean, on some formats, they can report every quarter, so that's, and then they'll report for a quarter period, but 90 days, not 90 days, right? So 30 days after the quarter ends. So then, when are you going to get paid? Make sure that, as you look at your cash flow, that you are making provisions for staying afloat in that period between the game being released and you getting paid. Also look where that, you mentioned recouping. A recoup is where a publisher will look to get back any money that they spent out, and that can take different forms, but look at how that is being recouped. Is it coming out of every first unit sold? Is it coming out of your percentage, their percentage? I've heard some horror stories about things being quite hidden in terms of when actually the creators will be getting their money, where that's coming from.
I think we should always make sure that they're actually paying you something. Like on mobile especially, but there are all sorts of shitty people around who will just take publishing rights and do stuff and not actually really some significant money, they're not really going to they're not going to be a proper publisher. There might be some advertising costs and skills, but that's a different agreement for publishing agreement. So that's quite well.
So with money mentioned, a lot of people go to publishers hoping to get funding so they can continue making their game and finish it. What are some other ways to gain money without a publisher so that you can do the development on your own before signing a contract?
So I guess you got Kickstarter route, which is pretty dangerous these days, I'd say. And in a way, like so I was talking to somebody a month ago, and they decided they were going to go down the Kickstarter route before looking at publishing money. And I think that's quite risky because fine, if the Kickstarter goes well, then great. If the Kickstarter bombs, publishers are not going to be looking at your game. You're trying to sell people a dream of how amazing your game's going to be. And suddenly, if you've got a failed Kickstarter, or even a Kickstarter that you pumped a load of your own money into, succeed, so it's going to be potentially risky. So think about crowdfunding ones a lot. I'm a huge fan of early access, but only when it's done right. And I think you should only be going into early access when you've got a complete game. And so you probably still need publishers to get to early access. Be as cheap as possible, like spend as little money as possible, cut as many corners, scope, get your core game, get something that's good enough to put onto early access, and then expand and flesh it out over the years. That's very secret money making tip.
So one thing I just saw recently is that there is a new round of European funds for 2018. So that's something many studios could go for. Of course, there are like venture funds. There are so many angel investors because now the games industry seems like such a trendy thing. Like I need to put my money in there. But that's I feel like something you should definitely pay attention to because if it's someone who doesn't understand the games industry, your partnership might not be so enjoyable. I'd rather go to someone who's part of the games. And I know several small teams who they worked before for a bigger games company. They decided we'd like to go on our own, and actually they got money from their previous employers because they were good, hardworking people, and the employers they knew that they believed in them. So yeah, you could find money anywhere.
With at Xbox, we work with Creative England for 2-3 years, and we invested millions with them, millions of pounds into UK studios, actually English studios, mostly outside the London area. Those were EU funds, so they might run out. But Creative Europe, until we're in, they have representatives here in London and across Europe. They invest actually substantial amount of money for projects. There are certain entry criteria. But I do know that, for instance, in some countries they don't spend all the money they have available. So there aren't those funds out there. Right? There will be an Xbox and PlayStation on the back. Miles. Don't be shy. I always do. Platforms sometimes, Oculus or other platforms, sometimes we go out because we have certain needs. And some platform might fund that type of opportunity, some type of might offer some support. So that's another opportunity. The important thing to bear in mind when you go asking for money is that money comes with strings. There's no source of money that comes without strings unless you are self-funding yourself. So every time you take money from somebody, there is a string attached. So you need to bear that in mind.
Yeah, I was going to make that point myself, is that where that string leads. So if you're just taking the money together, again, you don't need anything else, you don't need to worry about this, but where some of the funding can come with those strings is that it actually makes it then difficult to sign with a publishing partner, because some funds will want double their money back, some funds will want some money from that format and all formats, and it actually can become really, really, really complicated. It's useful, and there's some great seed funding, there's great prototype funding as well, but yeah, just be aware of sort of what you're signing up, how you need to pay it back if you do need to pay it back, and how that might affect working with other people down the line.
Yeah. Spain, I know we have some people from Poland in the audience, I think. Yeah. So the Polish government had big fund for game developers. The Spanish government just announced 6 million euros in the UK. We're talking about 20 million over 3 or 5 years. So that is a good source of money because it tends to come with strings that might not be that bad and might not undermine your publishing opportunity in self-publishing or working with a publisher. So there's a lot of money coming from government across Europe now. Yeah.
So there's a big rise in bigger indie titles that have a huge budget behind it. Do you guys feel that you need to have a huge budget to have a successful game? Does it really matter that much? Are you able to still compete with smaller budget indie games?
I think it depends. As long as you make a game that fits to your own skills, you can avoid a lot of the budget you use. While you're going to have a play game, very, very simple graphics, no multiplayer, with pounds in the algorithm, which I can do myself, so that means that I can keep the budget down a lot. But I think if you've got bigger ambitions and need to pull in all different skill disciplines, then the costs are going to start rising up.
Yeah, we don't tend to. Those games that we do fund, it's not hundreds and hundreds of thousands. So I think that we're still in the sort of 2-3 man studio. I think you can do a lot of good there, as James says. It's all about the skill set of the individuals. You don't need to spend that money, and spending that money doesn't guarantee it. I think we've seen a lot of games recently that just don't appear to have sold what you thought that they should have done. So, yeah, I don't think that spending that money guarantees success. I think it can be risky, depending on what format you're doing it for. But yeah, there are still success stories from one-man bands. Like I say, our area is sort of 2-3 core developers, supported by a team of freelancers. But you don't need to be spending hundreds and hundreds of thousands, I don't think.
Yeah, we always talk about one-man bands having big successes. There are plenty, Factorio and Stardew Valley, it's huge. There's no reason why it's like a small game, like a cheaper to develop game, can't have success. If it's extremely high quality. So if you hit in the right chord and there is a market out there, there's no reason why a pixel art game can be as successful as a picture from last year's Stardew Valley on Steam was as successful as Call of Duty. Yeah. So there's no reason. Just bear in mind that there is like a big market out there, a lot of developers, and there are more titles that are developed on the cheap than the titles that have a big budget. And so just when you create your game, make sure that there is a space for that game you're creating. Whether you invest 10,000 or 100,000 or $500,000, just make sure there is an audience out there. I think we always talk about this, is games are now, how many of you play an instrument, a musical instrument? How many of you have played at the Wembley Arena? Yeah. Games are becoming a bit more like that. So a lot of people write their own music, but not many people play at the Wembley Arena. Games are like that. So when you create your game, the first thing you need to decide is a commercial endeavor, is a passion project, and then you think about the budget that you'll invest. If it's a passion project, Steam Spy tells you there's no market for it. Do it in your spare time or as a second job or work for hire and do that. And that's where you think about how much money you want to invest in the project. Because there's opportunity for everybody. But there are probably 10 times, 11 times, 1,000 more times smaller games that are cheap to develop than games that require $10 million. That $10 million doesn't guarantee you success, but it sort of elevates you slightly above that. And then again, Factorio and all those games proven that one man in the room can still make a fortune.
I don't even know if it's fair to compare like really small projects to people, for people to think that 20 people and their apartment cost was like 1 million.
Just stop that. It is. The customers don't know who you are. The customer doesn't care. They see a product on a page. There are customers that care. They want to play those kind of games. They are into indie games. But when they are in a store and you sit alongside FIFA, Call of Duty, or a bigger game, the customer does not care who you are, how much budget you have. They only judge the video, the game, what they heard about the game. So it's not totally fair. It's just you're going to be judged for who you are. Sitting competing alongside all the other games. I was at PlayStation before. I find we had about coming up here and saying, change the policy. We want to be treated as everybody else. Now all the platforms treat you guys as everybody else. And you're competing with everybody else.
So I think the question is like what indie means any longer, because if like depending on who you ask, the answers are different. And so for some people it's just like, oh, I'm an independent studio, that doesn't matter the size, and I do games at like 1 million, 2 million budget, and I still call myself an indie, and I'm just like one man or up to 4 men are still an indie. Other people say it's just like a lifestyle, or it's more like a genre indie. No, it's not the really defined term any longer. Maybe we should work on that. In the sense like how you work. It's not fair to compare a team of 2 people budget or 2 people with 1 or 20 people. Then also that depending on the scope of the project, you go to a different kind of publisher. You can like the negotiations differently. Like the expectations maybe could be the same, but there are not so many small things that done games that sold in millions of units. There are some of them, and they are great, but they're like 2 out of 1 million or something like that. So we also need to be realistic.
Yeah, I certainly don't think budget is an indicator of success. I think a thing that's more likely to help your studio achieve success is produce something that an end user can't get anywhere else, especially if you're an independent developer. If you're making a first-person shooter set in World War II and there's 3 of you, probably not going to beat Activision. It's just not going to happen. But if you're making as we do, if you're making an adaptation of a 40-year-old tabletop game that you can only get in one space, but suddenly that audience that already exists is suddenly very, very interested in what it is that you do. So I think it's to help achieve more success. It's about figuring out what it is that you can produce that other studios either can't take a risk on or just won't take a risk on. If you're an independent developer and you're making a slightly mopey first-person walking simulator, like who cares? Like everybody else is doing that. Same with like pixel art platformers and these kinds of things. But if you're making something that's genuinely very different, recent great game like Inner Space, for example, which is just completely unlike anything else, well, suddenly your product stands out, and it doesn't matter that it was built by a few people working in a room. It's so different that that's the only place that the customer can actually spend their money on that experience.
And also, we talked about success, and we talked about $1 million. You first came to the side what success is for you. I worked with an ID partner, the studio was 1 guy, and he didn't sell that many copies, but he sold enough copies that made more than a salary. And that's his success. He doesn't want to make millions, well, we all want, but he doesn't need to make millions. His goal is, I want to create games that enough people are enjoying that can actually make another game, and I have enough money, and maybe save a bit of money. Big publishers, when they start off a new project, we have Dean Truckman in the audience, they have like a threshold. It's going to be, we want a return of X. If we don't think we can forecast that, but they're not targeted to sell like 10 million copies for the So define where your success. And we're talking about platform. A lot of developers like to do platform games because we grew up with this and that. If you want to do a platform game, there's no market potentially, and it's your own project. You will do 10,000 downloads, 5,000, and you're happy with that, then do it. But set your expectations right at the beginning, and your budget.
Going back to the last point, one thing, another way of potentially getting money is, if you've got a game which is in a niche, find somebody who's made a game in that niche already, who's done very well, and then drop them a note saying, hey, I've got a game, it's potentially of interest to your same audience, I'm looking for some money, and see if they're able to provide investment from that way. Like if somebody were to come to me with an algorithmic strategy game, which I practicing the same interplay, I'll be overjoyed with that. And I think that's the same. So find who made the games that you feel your game has a connection to. Claim it and make the game. But otherwise, like go to them and say, hey, you're an expert in this type of game. Look at my game. Does it appeal to you? I need backing. I really value your appreciation.
So back to Columbia, I suppose, or being inspired by games. When a game is super successful, the market becomes flooded with all of these like clones are inspired by games. How does that affect the publishing side of things and making games that are similar to or different even from what's being released over and over?
I personally feel we're in like the Banished era now. Banished came out, did very well, and it's now been a few years, and now everybody's making some kind of city builder, some kind of simulations, tribe game, or everything. There's loads of them coming out. Personally, that's great because I like playing, but it's also must be quite depressing for people if they go, oh, that game, well, I'm going to go and make one, and suddenly you've got huge numbers of them coming out. I don't think that's publishing.
Yeah, I don't. That's not the sort of publisher we are. I don't think we go chasing some. I mean, you mentioned Banished. People talk about PUBG, and people put battle royale modes and everything. You know, I think we would do it only if it was funny. I don't think we would chase it to try and get some of that success. So yeah, I mean, it has problems in terms of. Mike was talking about it earlier that a lot of these games are coming out and they're flooding the space on the stores, which can make it harder to stand out. They are very often sort of quickly gone. So yeah, don't come and talk to us if you've got one of those.
Do you have issues where you have two games, but each of which in its own you would have published, but you think, oh, we can't take those?
Yeah. I think if you're making a game, you want to publish it. You do want a publishing partner. You want it to be 100% focused on what you're doing. And we have had to turn down games that are, you know, sadly close to what we've got in the portfolio, and it's not always immediately obvious. But yeah, you absolutely. You know, every game you want. I think you use the term "skin of the game." You want everybody needs to be pulling to make this a success. You can't have. You know, publishing is a portfolio business, sure, but we're a small to medium-sized publisher, 8 or 9 games a year. We want all of them to be a success, and so you need to make sure that whoever you work with are doing that.
So if you're writing a wave of similar games, you want to be the first person to reach out to publishers.
Yeah, So I find it very difficult to sign one up that was directly aping something else. If it was in the style of what people are playing, then that's a different conversation. But one that's a cash in, I don't think that would be for us. But yeah, you know, you have to look at what is selling, what people are enjoying playing, and make sure that you know, when it comes to fruition in 18 months' time, that's still going to be relevant.
Yeah, and when you put yourself in the shoes of a platform or a publisher or a platform, and walking simulators were very popular, we all loved them, and Steve Gaynor changed that into Brother, and then everybody 2 years after comes with a walking simulator. The market can't take so many of those games for the number of downloads you're going to do, unless you have something spectacular. It's very hard. And obviously we had Firewatch, everybody always wants to us Firewatch. But that did very well, it's a walking simulator. But the quality of that game is outstanding. So there are titles that will defy the trends. Cuphead has 2 platinums, over 2 million copies sold. Everyone will tell you platform games don't sell. And then Cuphead comes out and sells 2 million copies, but that's not the norm. There's something so unique and amazing that defies the rule of the market. I mean, Steam Spy's out there for all of you to look at what those games are doing. And we were linking back to the budget. Very often people tell us, well, it's only 2 of us, we only have 50,000. Well, look at Tokyo 42, look at Overcooked, look at actually Human Fall Flat. So those are innovative ideas developed by small teams. They found their own niche, or not so much niche actually. They were trying to do something unique. So the fact that you don't have much money, they are indie. But indie, you don't need to report to your shareholders. Just do something innovative. At that point, there's talent that comes into play. So don't get bogged down, so I need to do something simple, I need to follow the trends. By the time you follow the trend is gone. Unless you leave it 3, 4, 5 years, there's a trend.
So I think there are some kind of games that will be played all the time. And like if you think that you can do it better, you can do it more like much better version, and if you can fix the issues that the previous game had, then yeah, go for it and do it. If not, just try something new. So before I've been working for Paradox Interactive, and we had this game City Skyline that it was quite risky. It was just another city builder there. There have been some others, there was someone else who was owning that market. And what we've done, because we looked at what people were missing from the previous game, and can we do it better? And yeah, it can work like that.
And I keep talking about the market. Feel free to ignore the market. So if you do an analysis, and then the analysis tells you there's no space for your game, but you still want to do it, do it. But be aware of the risk. If the Cuphead guys listen to our advice saying you can't ignore the market, they would not create a Cuphead, they will do a software video. But if you are in a market that's crowded, walking simulator, whatever it is, be aware of the risk. Be aware that you're going to have lots of challenges, and the game needs to be incredibly good. Don't stop the volume of development because we tell the market, but be aware of that.
And going along with what you said about trends, they tend to look back every couple of years. Do you have any trends for this upcoming year that you think are going to start appearing within the industry?
We've seen a lot of marks cropping up in all shapes and forms. Space has come back in survival games or city building games. So that come from movie. So one media influences the other. So movies become suddenly very popular. The space theme has come back. One kind of game that was very popular around 2013 was the roguelike. And then it went away because there were too many, and then Devolver launched Enter the Gungeon, and there was enough time in between that people wanted a new experience in that space. Just follow these trends, do your homework and go and check what's happening. At the moment, survival games are doing super well in general. On Xbox, survival games are doing very well, not just PUBG. In general, the early access games on Xbox are doing very, very well in that space. They might change. Just Steam Spy is a powerful resource that we have available.
Yeah, I just want to add, a lot of people mentioned Steam Spy, I do think you should use it. It's a really powerful resource. I'm generally quite happy with the numbers. The other thing that you should look into, though, Mike mentioned earlier, but you didn't talk about this, is that there's another site called istthereanydeal.com. I think it comes as part of enhanced Steam Chrome extension, but that will show you which games went into which bundles at which time, so you can put some context onto the raw numbers that you're seeing. Always, work within the margins of error, etc., etc., etc. But the number itself doesn't tell the story, and you can quite easily look and see, well, they're in Humble Monthly, and you can correlate exactly, there's probably however many that were added in that month, and it begins to tell a bit of a story.
Yeah, we do. We do an entire section of a talk about Steam Spy. We're talking about it a lot there. Use the first month data. After that, you need to use other tools, because the moment they start discounting, you go in bundle, you lose track of actually what the real sales are. And downloads at that point become a vanity, because if you sell something at 1 cent of a euro, doesn't matter. So we recommend to use the first month data. We recommend to get rid of the outliers. You're not going to sell as much as PUBG sold if you're in that space. You're not going to sell as much. So get rid of those. Sort of try to create a few different scenarios. Don't just use gameplay as a proxy. If you have a particular graphical style, pixel art or whatever, you can set up shaded. Use other games from other genres, but they have similar looks. So try to have a quite wide data set. If you want, this is probably for James, but you like this stuff. But another thing you can do is look at, if you have 100 titles, see how many have reached your break-even. What percentage? Is it only 10% of the titles have reached what you need for return? Or is it 30%? So it gives you an idea of the risk, level of risk. So really, once you have data, you can go down the rabbit hole.
You can go for everyone. And I think what you said before as well about acknowledging the market, but not necessarily it is absolutely right. And I think if everyone just does what the market is absolutely certainly saying, then you're not going to get anywhere. If everyone's going to be doing the same things, you've always got to take a bit of a risk or interpret it a bit differently. And that's where publishers can be good, is that they can help you spread the risk. And so you're not risking your whole house to do something, or you're not having to bankrupt your whole family in order to make it happen. Like if you think it's risky, talk to some publisher, maybe someone will think, yes, that's the kind of worth doing, and it's still pretty cheap, so we'll do it.
I don't want to get all sort of damn liberal, but I am. So I think if you want to see where games are going, in fact any media is going, we also want to look at society in general and what society is interested in. So I think you're going to see, in terms of themes, I think you're going to see a lot more games with a slightly more jingoistic approach to it. So I don't think it's a coincidence that we've started going back to like World War II. I think that with the rise of the interest in board games generally as a new medium, I think we're going to see a lot more from digital adaptations. So, for example, and you see this with like Asmodee launching their own digital thing. Their digital adaptations are going to be really, really big. Stuff like Hearthstone doing really well. And generally, I think this is a wild one. I think audio as a medium is particularly on the rise, and I think you'll start to see games with the lower access in terms of development tools and more people from different walks of life coming into development. I think you're going to start to see games that aren't the traditional. There is a 2D screen, like a 2D screen, and you interact with it with a joypad. I think you're going to start to see more stuff that takes advantage of different kinds of technology, whether that's the RNA or all that. Wrong. Or it might just, it might be different kinds of peripherals or using audio in a really interesting way. Again, you want to look at stuff like Nintendo's new cardboard nonsense, whatever that's called. Labo. You want to look at what society is interested in to see where the trends are going. Because if all you're looking at is the marketplace, you're looking at people who basically started making that game, as you say, 18 to 24 months ago.
At the same time, some of the gamers, they don't know what they want, or you might be the one to kind of lead them somewhere. And I think we're going to continue seeing the same kind of games, but I think those that are going to succeed are those that are going to be are going to be innovators. So really visual striking, but also innovators in something. You don't know what, but be creative and stand out.
I guess it's a danger if it's a big unity one, the publishers might not be ready for it yet, so that's again when you have to go out on your own and do it without them.
Shifting slightly, how do you go about finding games to publish and finding games? Do you just rely on people coming to you, or is it something that publishers tend to scout out as well?
I look at Kickstarter, I go to a lot of events, and I met Thomas, who's created Human Fall Flat. I met him 2 years ago at Popular Mix, and we've sold over 2 million copies. So that was a conversation that came about because he smoked. So yeah, they say smoking is bad for me. That instance, it's not particularly. Yeah, so it's networking, it's talking to people. Yeah, just sort of being out there and sort of in the market, playing a lot of stuff. Yeah, working with people that are successful in one format, streaming to others. So yeah, it absolutely varies.
I think it's worth remembering that publishers are wanting to find games to publish, so don't feel that you should be getting in touch with as many people as possible, letting them know about your game. They're looking for games that they want to have, so if you don't talk to them about it, they're never going to find it. So you've really got to be constantly trying to get it in front of as many people as possible.
I mean, idea is slightly different. We're a platform rather than a publisher, but we are constantly on the road. Anybody who follows me on Twitter knows. And we have a large team of business development that goes out constantly, trying to meet as many developers as possible. So we do the outreach, but we also quite often we get recommendations from developers say, oh, you should go and talk to these guys. Or the other way, where developers go and say to people, look, I get Xbox seems to be pretty cool, why don't you go and talk to them? So there are all sorts of sources, but yes, we are desperate to see games. We want to see as many games as we can, because the problem now, because there are thousands of games being created every day, we don't know what the next great thing is going to come. It's very, very hard. We had a title that launched on Xbox, doing incredibly well. Most of us had no idea it was about to launch. Even though it was part of the pipeline, we didn't know, because we had enough time. So yeah, never be afraid to reach out to people as long as you have the right approach. That's what we are there for.
We do receive a lot of pitches by email, so hundreds of email pitches per year. And I think now, every publisher, they have at least one person dedicated to go and find games. And Drop Fury is currently checking everyone knows him at all the conferences, and very active on social media. And I think like just becoming friends with publishers is fine. Even if you don't have something now, you might have in 1 year. Or sometimes it's like, yeah, we like you don't have something for us right now, but keep us in mind for your next project.
Yeah, just to reiterate that, like, communication is absolutely key. Go and meet people. Don't be the person don't be the Picasso, like, who hangs their painting in the bog. Like, be the person who actually goes out there and, like, puts it on the wall for everybody to see. Like, make a cool thing and then go show everyone, because there's so much competition that you really do have to go and find the people that you want to work with on every level in the games industry. But also, it's such it's a friendly bunch, right? Like, the games industry is not a horrible place, it's pretty nice. And so, like, going out and speaking to people really is just the best way of getting.
So there are so many games out there now, and we receive a lot of pitches, and we are talking to so many other that's also events. But I think it's challenging for us to find the right kind of games, because there are not so many games that are good enough. So it's challenging. There are also like many publishers, so it's not easy for us either.
Well, that's all I have for you guys, so I can open up for any questions for any of you guys, if you all have any.